things that you've been looking at lately is trying to eliminate hum or buzz from your system.
Yep.
And Aaron, you've kind of had similar
Did you,
issues before.
Jeremy? Did you ever email me about? Man, you know what? I think you did actually.
We chatted about it. I think in the comments of one of the videos.
Yeah.
But
this actually happens to be sitting next to me. So, what I was going to tell you was to try the HumX. Have you tried this yet?
Yep, I have one of those actually.
Okay. Did it work for your situation or no?
He bought them all.
Yeah, I bought them all. The HumX I've had for a while though, because I have to use a HumX on my gaming PC.
Okay.
Or I hear buzz like crazy through my whole system when playing a game, and like the GPU of the gaming PC is working hard. HumX eliminated that. The other noise that I'm hearing, I think, is something else, and I think I've got it nailed down now. I've done like I think 3 videos in the last couple of weeks, and I bought like these HiFi power grounding things. I bought this like $200 Pangea power cable that like you can't even hardly bend the thing. It was ridiculous. Like this big around.
All right, so you're gonna start dispelling some myths.
Well, so I didn't measure, or I didn't really test any of that stuff out when I had it to see like if audio quality improved. I was just looking for kind of hiss and buzz. But ultimately, I think I've come to kind of the conclusion that the hiss that I get in the theater room is about the best that my system is able to do, and that's not necessarily problematic hiss. You really have to go by the speaker, and at regular seating distance or volume, you don't really hear it. So that was more of like an engineering challenge to say, like, what does it take to get this speaker to be dead silent? My bigger problem,
hiss or like a hum?
That's hiss. So the theater is hiss. The living room speakers are definitive buzz though. And so all of my gear is for both of my spaces is centralized in one spot. I've got like a big double rack, and so the processing, the amplification, and all that serves both rooms is there. And so the speaker wire run up to the living room is quite a bit longer. And those speakers buzz. But I've done every combination of stuff, like unplugging this, plugging into that, grounding this to that, isolating things, unplugging everything else in the rack, and nothing that I've done, and then all these other little devices and extra cables and things that I bought. And nothing made any material difference. Ultimately, I think what's happening is that the speaker wire run from the rack to the living room is either like not high enough gauge, or it's running by something in the infrastructure, and it's picking up the noise, I guess. That's my latest hypothesis anyway.
Yeah, it's all experimentation. So it's funny because I went through this in my theater space. Are all of your devices, I'm assuming you're using a preamp. Is it via XLR?
Yes. Yep.
All of them are XLR.
Well, there's 2 RCA connections in the setup. My living room subwoofers are RCA from the Anthem STR to the like Triad rack amps that power them because they're in-wall subwoofers. Unfortunately, those rack amps don't have XLR inputs, but everything in the theater is XLR. And then the main 2 speakers as well in the living room, still the ones that buzz are XLR. I think Chana talking about it. This year I swapped a bunch of my cables over to the world's best Mogami 2469 wire.
Yeah, he needs a partnership with them. He always promoting Mogami. What's interesting is in my system, I was doing what you're doing, changing out everything. I was like, you know what? I have all these different devices. I try to, just for a second, a cable that's like, I guess, what do you call it? Like a ground lift where the third prong is not connected. Just for testing. I wouldn't normally use that. I just wanted to see if that was the case. Nothing. You know what it was? An RCA cable is a little bit
loose.
A little bit loose. You know what I mean? I'm like, all that hours spent, and it was this stupid RCA cable. So anyway, that's probably a recommendation to folks. Check your RCA cables first. Make sure they're all good. And I guess that's where there is some truth to, like, I wouldn't say go spend a ton of money on RCA cables and like interconnect. Just don't use crappy ones. I think there's a difference there, right? Between you need the most expensive ones and like the ones that come. Look, these these kind of came with something, right? You guys have all seen stuff
those are great.
like this, right?
HiFi, bro.
Yeah. You guys seen this, right? I don't know where this came from, right? But no matter what I plug this into, nothing looks wrong with it physically. But anything I plug this into automatically has noise.
Looks like they came from an old VCR.
Yeah.
It's
So
like
this person purposely buy the trash here for a reason, so I can never accidentally use these ever again. Because I just needed it quickly, just testing something. Like, what the heck? Why is this thing so noisy?
When we first built our home 15 years ago, every subwoofer I plugged in, I'd buy a subwoofer, upgrade a subwoofer, add a third subwoofer, a fourth subwoofer. They all had hum, and it was horrendous. And it wasn't until I had a friend of mine help me run a dedicated 20 amp circuit to the room and and actually even separate like my lights. So my lights were on a different circuit than all the equipment. Then the hum completely went away. But I was like, Joe, I tried the little, what we call a cheater plug, where it's missing the ground. So it bypasses the ground. Definitely don't recommend that. Because that's the whole point of a ground. But just doing some troubleshooting, even that didn't fix it. I never did spend the money, like $80 on the HumX to see, but once we ran the dedicated 20. So do you have anything like that in your theater room?
Yeah, all my gear, the gear rack runs off a dedicated 20.
Okay.
In the theater room itself is another 20 amp circuit, a separate one, that runs around a little bit of our basement, because the theater room was never designed actually to be the theater room. It was going to be a gym, home gym room. So I think when we built the house, they put a 20 amp in there, assuming that plug in like a treadmill or maybe some, high current motor type of equipment. So just kind of lucked out that both circuits that serve all the gear ended up being 20s. But the only things plugged in the theater room itself are the projector and then the two subwoofers. But I think my problem, or I'm really hoping that the issue with those speakers is that speaker line that's picking up something along the way. So talking about engineering and problem solving, I should have done the simplest thing first, which is just take the speaker downstairs and plug it in on a separate run of cable. Right, take more variables out of it. But it's an in-wall speaker, and it's just like, I'd like to play around at the rack first before I.
You need gold. You need gold.
Yeah,
I know. I think OSD sent me this a long time ago. I'm like, at a certain point now, it's like to the point where like the RCA cables are not even flexible.
So funny story, I think true story from when I first started out in this hobby, when we were getting that first 5.1 system set up. Again, it's like back 2000. Tributaries was like the high-end cable, right? And they had the silver cables. Everything was analog back then, so still component video and all that. And as we were setting this stuff up, I was trying to justify to my wife like why we need to buy these expensive Tributaries cables. Like, I really want all these Tributaries cables.
How'd that go?
So she's like, fine, like let's do a test. So we had a friend of ours come over.
That's awesome. Let's do a test.
We hooked up whatever, like VCR or cable box, something at the time. Right, to the regular old TV that we had, and it's like, all right, here's a sample set of Tributaries cables, and here's the ones that came like with the cable box or whatever. And they blind tested me, and I failed it miserably. But in the end, I still bought the Tributaries cables.
Oh man, that's funny.
All right, if you would like to join us every week on Mondays at what time is it? About 6 p.m. Central, which is the best time. That's where I am. Make sure you join us at youtube.com/dailyhifi. We out.